This is Sharon Laborde. Today on the program I want to share a story with you. It's a story that's been in the back of my mind since I was very young, and a small part of it is true, part of my family history. Living here in northwest Arkansas, so close to the route of the Trail of Tears, revived my interest in the woman who had become a legend in my family, and has inspired me to learn more about the history of the Cherokee people and about the culture of one of my ancestors. In the beginning, I set out to write a story that would appeal to middle and high school students, but hope it will resonate with readers on many levels. That's how the story began to take shape. You see, I grew up knowing there was something mysterious about my great-great-grandmother, Carolina. Unfortunately, her story will probably remain a mystery, since our family history contains few recorded facts about her life. There are, however, two things about her that have never been forgotten. Part of our oral family story has always been that Carolina was a Cherokee and that she had a secret. In telling Carolina's story, I have used my imagination more than facts, but she was a real person in the historic record, and her secret must have been the fate of many Cherokee girls with white fathers. Carolina's narrative, along with the heart-rending story told by her mother as she traveled on the Trail of Tears, is pure fiction, but the events leading up to the removal of the Cherokee from their ancestral lands are historically accurate, as are the descriptions of their history and culture. Now I'd like to share a part of Carolina's mother's story with you as she speaks with her own voice. The time is the 1830s, the place, Putnam County, Georgia. The removal of the Cherokee from our land began in May 1838, a year that will never be forgotten by my people. We thought that since we had fought by the side of Andrew Jackson in the Creek War, we would be treated fairly, even though we had heard that the government in Washington planned to move all the native people to a faraway place. No one really expected it to happen. We were innocent and thought that the word of the white man could be trusted, that we could finally live in peace. We were wrong, of course, and didn't understand what greed can do to the hearts of men, and what it would mean to our way of life. You see, our people had a different way of looking at the world and how we are meant to live. Before the Europeans came, there was no such thing as ownership of the land, and my people knew of the importance of living in harmony with nature. I will try to explain the Cherokee way of looking at the world. My family and I are members of the Wolf Clan, one of the 7 clans of the Cherokee. We have lived on the land the settlers call Putnam County in the state of Georgia for as long as anyone can remember. Our small village, one of many scattered across the area, was made up of family homes, where the generations lived together and shared the responsibility of taking care of young and old. The Cherokee people traced the family through the mother's side rather than through the father, so from the beginning our way of life was not understood by the Europeans. The first European settlers brought with them another way of looking at the world. They viewed the ownership of the land as important for what they call civilization, and even the great President Thomas Jefferson believed our people should learn to be farmers and adopt the ways of the white man. This European view of how life should be lived created many problems for the Cherokee. In our society, it was the women's job to plant and harvest the corn, beans, and squash that made up a large part of our diet. They also ground the corn and prepared the food that they raised. In addition to this work, women also searched the woodland for edible plants, berries, roots, and herbs that were prepared in the traditional way. The gathering of food was essential to supplement the diet, but also the women knew how to use the plants of the forest to treat sickness and to ease the pain of childbirth. This was important knowledge that was handed down from generation to generation. The men were responsible for hunting game and going from village to village to trade goods. Sometimes the men would become warriors and make war on other tribes, but for the most part, the Cherokee villages lived in peace with each other. A series of trails connected the villages where each of the 7 Cherokee clans lived in their own settlement. The 7 clans of the Cherokee were Wolf, Bird, Deer, Longhair, Wild Potato, Twister, and Blue. Each clan had their own stories and traditions, and these were passed on to the young. The clans were considered to be families connected by blood, and because of this it was forbidden to marry within the group. Young people had to find a mate outside of their village. Each clan had its own separate identity, and the members had the security of belonging to an extended family. It was a different world in those days before the white settlers came. Everyone knew their place. We called ourselves the real people or the principal people, and speak a language that is different from the neighboring tribes of the Creeks, Choctaw, and Chickasaw. Elder members were treated with respect and were surrounded by their children and grandchildren. When the European settlers arrived, they did not understand our ways. They wanted the land that we had always used for hunting and gathering. And we didn't understand that once they settled on the land, we would not be able to use it too. The women could not gather plants and herbs from the settlers' land, and our way of life began to disappear. Instead of weaving and making clothes from animal skins, the women began to trade for the cloth they got from the settlers. Guns were introduced to my people, and they replaced our traditional ways of hunting using blowguns and bows and arrows. Of course, hunting became much easier for the men with these new weapons, but the wild game was greatly reduced in number. With our hunting grounds taken over for farms, soon there was not enough game to feed the people. Then we were told we must become civilized. The men who knew nothing about raising crops were introduced to the plow and to strong liquor. The Europeans also wanted us to accept their religion and their laws. One of the traditions of my people that caused trouble with the whites was our attitude toward marriage, the cause of much heartbreak. Marriage to the Cherokee was a simple agreement between 2 people, not a sacrament of a religion. A man might have more than one wife, and sometimes they would be sisters. This was shocking to the Europeans, and their religious men tried to change our beliefs, but they had very little success in the beginning. As time passed and more white settlers moved to the land that had once belonged to us, life became more difficult for the Cherokee and the other native tribes. Some of our people adopted the ways of the white man, moved away from the traditional villages, and established their own homes, built in the style of the settlers. There they farmed and raised animals rather than hunting. Gone were the days of the women working together in the village field and gathering nuts and herbs from the land. Although many resisted, some of our men became farmers, but it was a drastic change and went against our ancient traditions. Our world was beginning to change so fast that at times it was hard to take it all in. It was during this time that I met William Wilkerson, the father of my child. Carolina's Secret is available in print or ebook from Amazon and from cahabapress.com. I'm so pleased you could join me today on Welcome to the Conversation. I'll be back soon with a few more ideas about writing, interviews with fascinating people, and reports on the creative spirit that is alive and well here in the beautiful Ozark Mountains of northwest Arkansas and Missouri. Until next time, this is Sharon Laborde. cultural editor of Ozark Radio Hour.